We're back with another episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale with Don and Kevin. Kevin, how are you, man?
Don, how are you?
I'm good. You know why?
Good. Why?
What's in the air right now? What's the feeling in the air
Other
right
than the
now?
moisture, you mean?
Well, moisture today. It won't, hopefully not when this broadcast posts.
I
but
smell a crack of a bat and some green grass.
I smell baseball in the air, man. I smell baseball. I love it. And that's what we're all about today. Today we're joined by Scottsdale business leader Jeff Meyer. He's current president of the Cactus League Baseball Association, and he's a longtime champion, as you know, Kevin, of Arizona sports and tourism. For nearly 2 decades as a board member, Jeff has helped guide the association, which brings spring training baseball to cities across the valley, building strong partnerships between host communities, nonprofit leaders like the Scottsdale Charros, and the ball clubs. He also has served on the board of the Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority, which plays a big role in sustaining the ballparks that are part of the Cactus League. Jeff, welcome, sir. Great to have you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We love to start off our conversations with our guests with a little bit of background. So give us a little background on who you are, where you came from, where you grew up, and how you got to where you are today.
Well, let's see. Born in Fargo, North Dakota. Born and raised there, family, and big Twins Vikings fan over the years. So
there you
baseball,
go.
my tie was there growing up.
Yeah.
And went to Arizona State, late 70s, early 80s, and been in business for myself most of my career. And got involved as a Scottsdale Charro in the mid-90s. And from that, loved the game of baseball and got involved in that aspect of things. Next thing you know, I'm finding myself involved with the Cactus League. So I've been, like you mentioned, a couple decades. So 1999, I think, is when I came on with the Cactus League. And, it's been a lot of fun. We, through the years, just watching the growth of the Cactus League and what we've been through. And it was all about sharing ideas early on back in the 80s and 90s. And in 2007, I think is when we incorporated as a nonprofit, and we're fortunate to this day have an executive director on hand that pretty much runs our day-to-day operations. So we're very fortunate.
That's fantastic. You had landscaping business. That's what you do for business, right?
Yeah, I did that for a living.
Did you cut the grass at any of the Cactus League parks? Keep them maintained?
Well, Salt River Fields actually were maintained when they first opened up.
Fantastic.
For about a 10-year period. Before
Yeah,
I
that's
retired,
great.
so.
That's fantastic. It all stays connected that way in this relationship world of ours, for sure, right?
We didn't do the actual fields themselves. We did the complex.
Oh, did you?
They've
Okay.
got the personnel specifically working on the fields directly, but we did the complex. So
pretty-
that was a lot of fun to be part of that.
Keep pretty tight rein on that kind of stuff, don't they? Yeah, exactly. So 17 years on the board or so. What's it mean now for you to step into the role as president?
Well, this is my second term, 2016 to 2020. I was in there for 4 years, and my last few months of my tenure in my first term is when COVID hit, so that was kind of interesting experience for us. In fact, it was on my birthday, 2020, that everything shut down.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty wild day for me. And during that time, just watching the developments of all that, and the moving on to 2021. Of course, we had to deal with the COVID environment in 2021 as well, with 25% occupancy for the stadiums, and then the strike that in 2022. So it was some challenges.
I remember that. Yeah,
through that period of time, and we were fortunate. Again, we had an executive director on hand, Bridget Binsbacher, who's done just a fabulous job being our voice of the Cactus League during that time, and kind of keeping us all in the loop, and the cities and city managers throughout the league. So it was tremendous. And so we've been on the uptick now for 4 years with attendance. We still haven't got to that 2019 mark yet, a little over 1.7 million at that point, but we're getting close. So we're hoping that can happen again here in the near future.
Those were unreal. I remember those, Kevin. You did too, I think.
yeah.
Talking to the guys at the Charros about what it meant in Scottsdale particularly, but those were some rough years for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. It's nice to come back to normal years right now and see the growth coming back, because it means so much to our cities, that's for sure. So how did your volunteer experience, how does that shape your approach to leading the association?
Well, I guess the thing that I've got really involved with over the years at volunteer for the Charros was raising money, selling programs, selling advertisement.
Yep.
And the guest experience that we have in Scottsdale with the Charro Lodge and everything. And I've tried to look at that same format premise from a Cactus League perspective. We're entertaining folks here for 30 to 45 days for during the baseball season, during the Cactus League, and what can we do to promote Arizona during that time? And I mean, the economic impact's tremendous. We're 2023 was the last time we ran some numbers with ASU, and then we're going to do a survey again this next year. But this is about $710 million of economic impact. So
that right?
pretty tremendous.
710 million. Wow.
That's a good bump for sure. That's what our economy thrives on, for sure. Especially in Scottsdale, which is such a tourist community. Yep. I love the atmosphere that happens each March. February, March now, that happens in Scottsdale particularly. Do you get around to all the stadiums during the course of a Cactus League season?
I attempt to, as much as I can. I mean, to say I got into every single, each year to get to each stadium might be a little challenging, but for the most part, I try to get around. But it's just great to see the different venues and the way they run their organization and internally, and get ideas from that. And it helps the Charros as well when I see some things out there happening. So
it's nice that they're all in the valley now. I remember when we still have spring training in Tucson, and I even go back. My first year in Arizona was back in the early '80s, and Yuma had a team. I was in Yuma, Arizona for a year.
Yep.
And that was a big deal back in the day. The Padres trained in Yuma. That was really cool.
And the Indians previous to that.
Yeah, that was. And the San Diego crowd could drive 2.5 hours over to see a spring training game from San Diego into Yuma. So that was kind of a nice, convenient factor for them too. But that's fantastic. So what's the outlook for the season? What do you see ahead this year?
Well, we've got year of the World Baseball Classics. We have 6 teams that have exhibition games on March 3rd and 4th here locally, which get added to the schedule. Again, they're exhibition for the World Baseball Classic teams, but it's great to see in Scottsdale here we're going to have Team USA on March 3rd play the Giants. So it's a 1-10 game, and that'll be a lot of fun for the community to take that game in. And then interesting towards the end of the season here, it's the first time this has happened in 75 years, but the New York Yankees are going to be playing the Cubs down in Sloan Park for a 2-game series.
Is that right?
Before they conclude the spring training. And they were here last year in 1951. Just a quick story on that. Del Webb, in Beta House real estate handlings and workings back in the day.
Yeah.
Here in Arizona, he basically worked it out with Horace Stoneham, the owner of the Giants, to swap spring training grounds for the season in 51. So
really?
The Giants went to Florida and the Yankees came here. And so when you hear about the Yankees being in town, they were only here one season, and that was 75 years ago. So
wow. So
for them coming back 75 years later, very interesting. The local group, the Mesa Ho'okams, are 75 years old too. And I've just, in fact, attended their an event for them yesterday as well. So it's, it's kind of that time of year to celebrate some of the history we've had over the years, which is great.
I think we take it for granted that we have such a treasured aspect of the Cactus League in the Valley.
Absolutely. What an exciting year this year it's going to be. You got the Dodgers, who are just returning world champions. You got the Yankees coming. You got the Cubs here. I mean, every team's exciting, but just what a treasure trove of stars.
Very true. The Dodgers are at this stage of time, obviously with Ohtani, and winning 2 World Series here in a row. That's the first time that's been done for a Cactus League team since the A's did it back in the early 70s.
Is that right?
So that's a big accomplishment to have the trophy here again for 2 years in a row. And, of course, Ohtani on the road. I mean, all the games around the Valley are getting booked up quickly.
Are they
It's
really?
just good to see him play.
He alone should help the attendance figures, you would think, as the team stays here this season. So that'll be fantastic.
A lot of comparisons to what Babe Ruth, in his career pitching and hitting him, just in that respect. So, which is pretty cool to see.
Now, the championship for the World Baseball Classic this year, is it going to be in Asia? I thought it was going to be we had some initial games here, right?
All exhibition games are here.
All
local.
Exhibition games are here. Okay.
I'm not sure the exact schedule where the teams are playing, to be honest, but I just know we're hosting the games on March 3rd and 4th.
Okay. All right.
That's going to be pretty cool. That's something to go check out, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's the game I'm trying to go to. Yeah.
Yeah. Get tickets to the Yankees-Cubs game, by the way, now. Soon.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You can find out. Those are probably sold out by now, I imagine. That's pretty crazy stuff for sure. We all know in Scottsdale what it means to the city of Scottsdale. We could just go downtown on any day in March and you just see the crowds that are there largely because of the Cactus League. How does that play out for the other communities across the valley? I mean, what do you experience there? Is it the same kind of deal? I mean, it's different because Scottsdale's right, the stadium's right in the middle of downtown, which really makes it convenient for everybody. But how does that play out in terms of the effect for other cities that are in the league?
I think that's made a big difference, just witnessing that over the years. And I said I was involved with Saltwater Fields too, when they first opened up in 2010. And it's changed the area out there as well with where they're fielding, they're practicing as well, and just as far as the restaurants and getting much more traffic and things. It makes a big difference, in my opinion.
Is it 2010 when Salt River Field's open already? Gosh,
Is that
man.
15 years already?
I would have, if you had asked me right before this, I would have said 7, 8 years.
That's probably what I would have said too. Yeah.
It's been 16 years.
Goes by quick, doesn't it? Wow, that's for sure. Yeah. You know, we talk about the significance of spring training to Arizona's economy, and, you know, maybe you have some more numbers to go along with what we already talked about, but it's also part of our identity. And how does that play off, do you think, in terms of Arizona's identity as a Cactus League host with the league happening here? That's got to be a big feather in our cap, huh?
Well, again, the economic impact's tremendous, and there's just so many other things to do here in the Valley during the month of March, February, March. I mean, people come down and be able to associate, you know, of course, golf is huge.
Right.
People making trips down here to be able to take some golf in and, you know, take a day trip up to Sedona or Prescott or, you know, Grand Can's a little further drive, but I mean, that's, you know, one of the wonders of the world. So it's worth the travel for many people to come down here and have that experience.
I was in Sedona over the weekend at a conference, and I talked to some tourism people up there, and they're already trying to figure out ways they can take better advantage of getting people to come out here for spring training.
Oh, is that right?
To come up and just spend a day in Sedona.
Yeah.
You know, so they're just talking about marketing campaigns and things like that to feed off what the Cactus League already brings here to communities like Sedona, and I imagine others would be doing the same thing. So it's got a big impact statewide. It's not just in the Valley or in Scottsdale. It's a big statewide impact for sure in terms of what it brings to Arizona.
How many stadiums have you been to in the Cactus League, Don?
You know, that's a great question. I'm going to say probably 4 that I can think of right off the top. I haven't been out to a lot on the west side, but I've been lots on this side of town, Tempe and Mesa and so forth. But
I went to a game in Maryville a couple years ago.
Did you?
They have a nice facility out there, don't they?
They really do.
Yeah.
there's good. There's
American
good
Family
places.
Fields, what they call
Yeah,
it.
American Family. That's right. Yep.
Yep.
Brewers.
You know, a lot of what we do in the Cactus League, and like anything, is based on volunteer leadership and, you know, the sort of the civic commitment to drive long-term successes in organizations like the Cactus League. Is the volunteer spirit pretty much alive that you see across all the cities that are participating?
It is. That's makes up our membership for the Cactus League, and the municipalities and the booster organizations and the teams, of course. And they're not volunteers, but representatives, but really assist us, you know, in our day-to-day operations. But recently, we've been able to take some corporate memberships on, and with tourism, and which has been great. We just held a golf tournament recently up at Greyhawk here 2 weeks ago, and got some great participation from that. And you know, we're self-funded in the Cactus League. We don't have the dollars from the state or anything to help us orchestrate everything we do. Self-funded internally, and that's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of. I think just in the years that I've served is what we've been able to do on pretty low budget, for that matter.
You hired an executive director. That's a big deal right there, right? Yeah.
You're darn right, it sure is.
So is it fundraising that supports this? What is the source for the funding that you guys have?
Well, we've been fortunate. The Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority stepped up and helped us from just some capacity from that standpoint. But corporate memberships, Bridget Binsbacher has been working very hard on driving membership throughout. And, you know, we're working on the next, I think one of our largest obstacles here the next few years is Proposition 302, the sunset of Proposition 302, which is all the funding for the Cactus League facilities and the improvements that have been made over the years. And so we're working on that and coming up with a plan to hopefully
When does that expire?
2031.
Oh, okay. Oh,
You got some time, but you got to start planning for that now,
Exactly.
for sure. What is the state of the stadium's facilities now? Are they all in pretty good shape, or some in the pipeline, further in the pipeline than others in terms of needs?
You know, each situation is probably a little bit different depending on the contract that they currently have with the team and when you know, previous improvements were made, I guess, in respect to the contracts. But, you know, we're in the need for the long run, and everybody's going to need that for sure. So it's something we want to work as a whole for all the 10 facilities we have. And there's potential for an expansion team as well down the road.
For Major League Baseball?
There is. They're talking 2 more teams
Okay.
potentially, and it would make sense with 15 teams here and 15 in Florida for one team to be here for spring training, one team in Florida to make 16 each.
Is that what it is right now? 15-15?
15-15.
Is there competition now? I mean, for years past, before we grew to 15, there was some efforts to try to, you know, recruit teams to come to the Cactus League from Florida and that kind of deal. Is that still happening behind the scenes?
You know, not so much. I don't think late as of recent, but you're right, that did happen over the years, and we feel fortunate. I think in the early '90s, when Governor Rose Moffett was in office, started a task force that basically really worked, the baseball task force that worked specifically on keeping teams and promoting spring training here. And in my opinion, she saved baseball here
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
in Arizona.
Because the task force?
Just the workings behind the scenes that helps save spring training. And so we're fortunate, in the valley here, the furthest distance between the two stadiums is probably about an hour and 10 minutes.
That's nice. Yeah.
Where in Florida, you may have to be on a bus and drive 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
3.5 hours, and then play a game and may have to get on the bus again the next day and do the same thing. Who knows? But it's a little bit different environment. So the players that I've talked to and the administrators and coaches who've been involved in the Cactus League feel very fortunate that they've been able to spend time here over the years.
I think that's one of our pluses. You can drive from stadium to stadium, but the longest drive is like an hour, like you said. You can't. In Florida, it's a big haul down there for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. I never thought Governor Mofford played such a big role in saving spring training here. That's kind of good to know. Yeah, she was actually a pretty good governor in a lot of ways that
Yes, she
people
was.
don't remember.
We were talking about her the other night, remember?
Yeah. Good leader.
And with that happening, I've even heard from many people too that the Diamondbacks probably would never have been started up as a franchise here locally if they didn't have the support of the spring training that we had to show Major League Baseball that we could support that.
That's a good
Here
point.
in the Valley. So
That's a good point. I think talk about people like Jim Bruner who helped bring baseball here. That's all part
That's
of the same
right.
equation
Exactly.
too,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
And we had Joe Garagiola Jr. on here a couple months ago, and he told some great stories about those first days of when they got the franchise.
Yeah. What a joy it was talking about nostalgic events with Joe. Mm-hmm. Some of those things, him going to dinner at Yogi Berra's house, that kind of stuff, which is really wild. You have some favorite spring training moments and from your
well,
time?
you're reminding me of when you're talking about it.
Yeah.
So Joe Garagiola Jr.'s father, senior, we did a celebration in 2008 for the 50th anniversary of spring training here in Scottsdale of the Cactus League. And Joe Garagiola Sr. was our MC for that event, and I worked very closely with him and Jim Bruner, Don Ruff, another Charo that was very involved in that process, Don Carson. So we put that event on. That was just a lot of fun putting that together. So celebrating the 5 teams that we've had over the years, that the Charros and the city of Scottsdale have hosted for over the decades
That's
of
right,
the
5
teams.
teams. That's right. Forget about that. Yeah.
What, the Charros have had 5 teams come through, or?
Yeah.
Well, it's been, since the Charros have been involved, there's really been 4.
Okay.
The Orioles had played here in the late 50s, and
Right.
that was part of the Scottsdale Baseball Club during that period of time. And then the Boston Red Sox were here for 6 years, and then 1966 was a dark year where there was no team at all. Cubs came in 67 through 78, I believe, and then we had the A's for 3 years before the Giants came in 1982, and they've been here ever since. So,
Really?
That's a good trivia question.
This is a good trivia question.
I have to remember that one.
Because I came here in '86, and it seemed like there was a pretty robust league at that time, but it was only a few years old then. In '86.
well, the Giants would be playing at Scottsdale, and to be honest with you, in '86, I'm trying to think exactly how many teams we would have had, but maybe 5 or 6 at the most.
Not that many.
Yeah,
Wow.
Well, we still had Tucson back then, right? Indians were still in Tucson, right?
and the Yuma was in
And
Yuma
Yuma
too.
was still there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a little more widespread for sure.
Maybe up to 8. Maybe it was at 8 at
Yeah.
that point.
So when you look ahead, what are some of the challenges that you see on the horizon?
Well, I talked about Prop 302 a little bit already. I think the other thing that we're a little unsure of is, are we going to have another walkout after next year? And there's talk that potentially could happen again at the end of this next season, which would impact the spring training of 2027 potentially if that happens. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that we can get through all this. So.
Yeah, those are things you can't control. That's for sure. And on any of those counts, you just have to kind of roll with it. But it's nice that now that you're doing your own fundraising, which kind of keeps the organization going, through all of those challenges, which is kind of a good thing, I would think, too, So that's
Absolutely.
good. I don't think people really realize that's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also served on the board of the Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority. Are you still on the board now of that group?
I'm not. I was on there for about 10 years.
Yeah. Any reflections there about some of the work that you did and some memories you have from that?
Well, I loved the process of understanding the process of the funding and how the buckets, I guess, of funds come from the state, through the state of Arizona, through the tax component of both the hotel and lodging taxes and car rental taxes and the flow of funds, so to speak, with Arizona Office of Tourism, the State Farm Stadium, which was built, is primarily why the Prop 302 came into existence, and of course supporting the Cactus League and youth and amateur sports, which is big around the valley. So Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority handles a lot of the grant process as well for the youth and amateur sports fields. In fact, just a little bit north of here, I was involved in 2007, the renovation of the Kiva fields, Kiva Elementary School. We put in some lighting so they could play soccer and baseball there at night, and it was, to the tune of about $300,000, and that was something the Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority stepped up to be involved with. So that was something I was personally, before I was even on the board myself, so it was very fun to see that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What kind of trends do you see in sports tourism, and how is Arizona, do you think, positioned for the future to sort of take advantage of all that? Anything new down the horizon in terms of sports opportunities that Arizona might be able to accomplish? I mean, we got the Olympics are coming here. What, to LA? Is it in the next summer round?
That's right here.
So are there opportunities to do any promotions, any tie-ins? Have you ever talked about stuff like that?
Well, I know soccer's big, and the involvement of soccer, and they continue to host a few games here and there out at State Farm. We're having the Women's Final Four here in April.
That's right.
With this year, so that's hats off to the community for getting involved with that. And
what a time! The time is perfect for that, right?
Exactly.
I mean, women's basketball the last 2 or 3 years has really taken off.
Yeah, it's huge.
It has, and the way ASU's playing, maybe they can make a run at it here. So.
No kidding, right?
No. They need something going on.
Their
It's
new
nice to
coach
get
is
that.
something else.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out for sure. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Any advice to the next generation of civic and sports leaders in Arizona? You've been involved so much in a leadership role now for almost 2 decades. Reflections for others that someday are going to be picking up what you leave for them?
Be patient but persistent.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you, you have to, wait things out, because it's just the way things fall sometimes. But for the most part, stand behind it and know where you want to take things, and it'll make a difference.
It's time to be a fan again. Baseball's here, Kevin.
That's right.
Who's your team?
That's right, huh?
Who's your team?
Well, I'm a Royals fan.
Royals, okay.
Yeah, so I got to
Kansas City all the way, right?
I go see the Royals. I was a little kid. I remember
Yeah.
being a little kid watching when I lived in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah, so watching the Royals when they were in the 1970s, when they were really good, went to the playoffs every year. It was good.
They
George
were
Brett.
awesome. Yeah.
George Brett,
Yeah, of course, you bet. Yeah. Well, my team was Pittsburgh, and we haven't had much to cheer about for the past 20 years. But there's some optimism there.
But you were
now.
there when Stargell was there, and
Stargell, Clemente, Dave Parker.
Did you see Clemente play?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My first time was going to Forbes Field back in the day, when Forbes Field was still there before Three
Al
River
Oliver was
Stadium.
on the team then.
Al Oliver was on the team there. I mean, the Pirates, when I grew up in the 70s, were one of the best teams in baseball.
Really?
Now they're absolutely one of the worst. But there's optimism. I'm reading about, there's some hope on the horizon. They got a good pitching staff, and they brought a couple of hitters in to bolster their lineup this year. So we've got a chance.
Is that right?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
I got a story for Jeff, since he's a Twins fan growing up. Harmon Killebrew's story. You want to hear a little Harmon Killebrew's
I love one.
story?
I sat on his board of directors.
Did you? I'm sure you got a lot more
Yeah.
stories than I do.
Yeah.
Here's my little Harmon Killebrew story. It's a short one. I used to work at the airport,
Right.
And I was in the airline business. And Harmon Killebrew came through one day, checking in, going for a flight. And I was working, and I at the ticket counter, I saw him, and I knew who he was, and was kind of starstruck
Right.
by him. And I was telling my friends next to him, because they didn't know anything about him. Like, do you guys know who this guy is? This is a Hall of Famer.
Big
Do
time.
you know this is? And I go, this is Harmon Killebrew. And I said, he hit 573 home runs. And he stopped at me and looked at me and goes, 575. I don't remember if the number was correct, but whatever. The
Pretty
point
close,
is,
pretty close.
He corrected me. I was off by 2 home runs, and he corrected me and said, "No, that's how many homers are they hit." So
It is 573. So
is it 573? Is that right the first time?
So 573 is the number. So maybe
I might
you
have said
said
571
yeah.
then.
It is,
So it was
okay.
573. Yeah, see, since I've learned that since he scolded
That's
me.
classic.
Yeah, I bet you got some good Harmon Killebrew stories.
Oh, he's the best. He really was. In fact, my wife and I just came back from the Midwest here in October, and we stopped and saw Harmon's wife, Nita, because we hadn't seen her in a few years.
He's no longer with us, is he?
He's no longer, no.
Yeah,
He
okay.
passed in 2010. But she lives in Idaho, so it was great to see her. It had been a number of years and reminisce some of those stories. But I grew up being a fan back in the Midwest, and to have the opportunity to serve on his board was just amazing.
Yeah, how did that come up? How did you get that opportunity?
I was involved in an event called the Dream Game back in the mid-'90s.
I remember
We were talking about that a couple weeks ago.
that. Yeah.
And Phoenix Memorial Hospital was an event they put on, and I was invited to by one of I guess it was one of my auto rental companies that worked with my landscape business at the time, invited me to this event at Camelback Inn, and we walk in. My wife and I walk in, and it turns out this is a rematch of the 1965 Minnesota Twins Dodgers for the World Series.
No kidding.
And all these players, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I changed, my whole weekend changed. I mean, at that point, we went and saw the Old Timers game the next day at Phoenix Muni, and then they had a golf tournament the next day. And next thing I know, I'm talking to the director who's running, and he needs a driver for the following year. So I just kind of stood up and said, I'll be a driver for you. And from there, it turned into, well, I want you to handle all the hospitality of handling, connections with all the players we're bringing in. My first call was to Pete Rose.
Really?
To schedule his traveling plans for the next year. So it was pretty cool. It was very fun for me.
That's very cool. Yeah, right.
Have that exposure over the years. And that's how I met Harmon. And Tony Oliva's still a pretty good friend to see him often.
Who was Pete Rose with then? Was he with the
He was with the Reds? Yeah.
Reds?
No, he had left.
Okay.
He was retired at that point.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But
he came in for the Old Timers game.
Yes, exactly.
So not for...
and then a few years later, we did, after the Twins Dodgers, we did a Windy City Showdown, the best Cubs players against the White Sox. And then it got to the point where it just was more of All-Stars, National League versus American League All-Stars. Picked up Stan Musial one time at the airport. So, I mean, that's how cool is that? I mean, just exposure, stuff like that.
That game used to, for me, it kicked off baseball season. Because it's always the beginning of spring training, right?
Yep.
It was like one of the very first games. And so you knew when you saw that game being advertised that the weather would be changing. Yep. Baseball was on the horizon, and it was a good time to be around, be in the area.
The thing I like about baseball, what's been on some of our previous podcasts, just the memories. When you're growing up as a baseball fan, you've got memories like that, whether it's Harmon Killebrew or whatever else. My airport baseball memory was New Year's Day, 1973, I think, when I woke up to news that Roberto Clemente had died in a plane crash as he was ferrying some supplies to Nicaragua, which had just gone through some stuff. And I'll never forget that morning, because he was kind of my boyhood hero growing up, watching baseball, watching Roberto Clemente all those years. So it just brings back many memories that come with the game. I'm
going to give you one more airport story, just since you're talking about airports, so it's funny. So one year I'm waiting at the bottom of the escalator, and I'm holding up a Bob Feller sign. I'd never met Bob Feller before, but he was coming to town for the Dream game. So I'm standing down at the bottom, and I had an idea what he'd look like and everything. He's coming down, but this gal comes down, and I'm younger. I'm 32 or 33 at the time, and the gal walks up to me. She goes, "Well, I'm looking for a feller." I was speechless. Met Bob within a couple of minutes, though, so we're all worked out. But played golf with him. It was pretty fun.
Looking for a feller.
Who plays in the golf tournament, the Cactus League golf tournament? All the member teams, organizations?
Real good support internally with the teams and corporate sponsors. We've managed to bring in some corporate sponsors, and so
these would be corporate sponsors who participate in the Cactus League.
They're members and involved in a lot of the contractors have been involved with the facilities over the years.
Okay.
And so it's great to see their support for us during these types of events.
Well, baseball's in the air, baseball's on the ground, and we're here. It's Cactus League season, so this is going to be a month of just pure baseball fun. Looking forward to it. Jeff, what a terrific conversation today. Love the work that you're doing, the memories that you have, and just the work you're doing with the association. Thanks for all your service, man. Yeah, it's great, fantastic. Kevin, another great example of people in Scottsdale doing wonderful things.
I'm trying to get Jeff on the show for 2 years.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good things come to those who wait. So,
right.
Jeff, thank you so much. It was great getting a chance to know you and the work you're doing, and really appreciate that. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back with our next episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.